Part 54. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 531. Sun Qiniang, tell me, what's going on? Although Meng Wei was still in the foundation building stage at this time, facing Sun Qiniang, his momentum was not weak at all. No matter whether Sun Qiniang was in the original Jian Tianming stage or in the Dan formation stage at this time, Meng Wei was never at a disadvantage. In fact, the relationship between the two is neither enemies nor friends. But meeting under such circumstances, and because of Zhu Yun's relationship, Meng Wei was relatively concerned. Since you guys know each other, I'm going to catch that nascent soul stage. Niao had great trust in Meng Wei, and he transformed into a golden rock again. Just as he was about to fly away, Sun Qiniang said, he is the elder of the Dan Pavilion of the Fire Dragon sect. Fire Dragon sect. Niao looked disdainfully and said, how can I, the majestic demon king, be afraid of a sect? Tell me where the Fire Dragon sect is, and see if I don't kill them and turn them upside down. A bird. Meng Wei glanced at him sideways and said, don't worry, listen to what Sun Qiniang has to say. As she said that, she held Sun Qiniang's hand and sat on a stone chair of unknown age. How did you become like this, and how did you get caught by a bird? Sun Qiniang smiled bitterly and said, it's a long story. Not long after you left, Zhu Yun was inexplicably trapped in a formation in Barren Stone Mountain. Ergu came to me for help, but when I rushed to Barren Stone Mountain, Zhu Yun disappeared. Yes. Later, by mistake, I also arrived in Chuzhu and found clues about Zhu Yun. A monk who had been with Zhu Yun for a long time made an appointment to go to Shiwanda Mountain to find Zhu Yun. Then have you found Zhu Yun? As soon as he heard about Zhu Yun, Meng Wei's eyes lit up with excitement. Although they have been separated for a long time, Meng Wei misses her even more. I didn't find it, Sun Qiniang sighed and said, later, I was separated from the monk for some reason, and I don't know where he went. But I met Chen Hua unexpectedly. Chen Hua. Meng Wei blinked and said, is that the guy in black who likes to carry out sneak attacks? Sun Qiniang nodded and said, but who would have thought that we would encounter people from the Fire Dragon sect in the Peeper realm? The 4 pill formation stages of the Fire Dragon sect rebelled, and Chen Hua only had the foundation establishment stage, so we were simply invincible. Even though I killed him by force, 2 people were killed, but there was no way they could escape. When Chen Hua saw this, he sacrificed himself to detonate his magic weapon to give me a chance to escape, but he... What? Chen Hua. Meng Wei's beautiful eyes widened suddenly, feeling a little incredible. Her impression of Chen Hua was still that of her trip to the secret realm at that time. Yes, Sun Qiniang's eyes were wet, and she touched the grimace on one side and said, my face was also burned by their flames in that battle. But at least I survived, so I swore to avenge Chen Hua, sneaking into the Fire Dragon sect, but who would have thought that I, Sun Qiniang, had a bad fate and met another nascent soul stage after a long period of recuperation. Meng Wei was too shocked to speak. But then Sun Qiniang suddenly laughed, who would have thought that nascent soul chi also escaped from the Fire Dragon sect, and he told me that I and Zhu Yun were in danger, but nothing serious. And she and Zhu Yun had an affair. We made an appointment to meet at the Lingjian sect. However, I wanted to avenge Chen Hua, and I was also thinking about getting a Huiyan pill from the Fire Dragon section. So I rejected the senior. Meng Wei sighed. Sun Qiniang said again, what you didn't expect is that when I was getting ready to go to the Fire Dragon sect, I bumped into Elder Dan. At this point, she glanced at Niao and said, it was Senior Demon King who was chasing me. That person? Niao asked, look, I can't change the fact that you killed so many monsters. Sun Qiniang's heart tightened, and she heard Meng Wei scold him, Niao, Sun Qiniang is a person, I can trust her, she must have been coerced. After that, she looked at Sun Qingyang again and said, "You say it's okay, I believe you." Sun Qingyang looked grateful and said, "The old man said that he wanted to refine some kind of realm-breaking elixir. He needed 1,000 demon elixirs from fire-type monsters. But he didn't want to do it, so he force-fed me a kind of elixir and asked me to take it. Entering the 100,000 mountains, this is what happened. I happened to kill the 1,000th demon beast and was going to go to the fire dragon sect with him, but I never thought that the senior demon king would come. But at this time, Sun Suanhua said, although the breaking realm pill is mysterious, and I don't understand the recipe, it requires a demon pill to refine it, which goes against the principles of pills. This is. Sun Qingyang and Sun Suanhua didn't know each other, so they couldn't recognize them. Sun Suanhua grinned and said, "I am Zhu Yun's master." It turns out to be Uncle's 7th master. Sun Qingyang immediately said respectfully. Even though Sun Suanhua was only in the late stage of foundation building at this time. Sun Suanhua waved his hand and said, "How long has this happened? It's okay not to mention it. I heard from Wu Ya that you are in charge of the Lingjian sect and it seems to be quite good." Sun Qingyang sighed and said, "I don't care about any section, it's just that I needed to recuperate at that time, and then the tombs of my 2 brothers stood there again, so I simply stayed in Yunzhou. The key is that Wang Jian and I there are countless connections with Shan, and I don't dare to come to Yezhu. So after arriving in Chuzhu, I didn't even consider going back to Yunzhou via Yezhu." Sun Suanhua said, "Sun Qingyang, we will talk about the rest later. I heard you just said that Mr. Dan gave you some kind of elixir. Can you let me find out what kind of elixir it was? In addition, have you ever had an attack? Have you ever had an attack? What effect will it have?" Meng Wei and Sun Suanhua had been practicing here for a long time. When they had nothing to do, they talked a lot and often mentioned Sun Qingyang. Sun Suanhua naturally had some good feelings towards Sun Qingyang, who had helped Zhu Yun a lot, and had no hostility. And this move was to help her solve the problem of the poison pill in her body. However, I don't know if it can be done. Sun Qingyang stretched out her hand and said, "It has never taken effect. For several months, the old man Dan has been with me. When the drug is about to take effect, he will give me an antidote." Sun Suanhua nodded and said, "I'm sorry." After that, he stretched out his hand and placed it on Sun Qingyang's pulse. He closed his eyes and thought for a while before he let go. "Grandpa, is she okay?" "Yes, and nothing." Sun Suanhua's words made everyone present confused and looked at him in confusion. This pill is not complicated. It is nothing more than using some spiritual power to trap your golden elixir. After a certain period of time, the medicinal effect will entangle the golden elixir and invade it. If there is no antidote to relieve it, it will cause problems with the golden elixir. It is said that there is a problem. As for saying that there is nothing, in fact, as a sword cultivator, the sword energy must reach the golden elixir, which is not a problem, right? 7th uncle means. Sun Qingyang's eyes suddenly lit up, and she vaguely understood what Sun Suanhua was saying. "That's right, you are already in the Jindan stage. This sword art is extraordinary. It must be very simple to control the sword energy into the body. And, if I remember correctly, you have changed from an ice-type spiritual root to a single gold-type spiritual root. The gold is sharp. Use the sword energy to cut the medicinal power entangled with the golden elixir into pieces, and this problem will be solved. Is this feasible?" Sun Qingyang was overjoyed. When she came here, she was so worried. Even if Ah Niao let her go, Sun Qingyang could not find Dan Lao to ask for a pill. There was not enough time for her to go to the Fire Dragon sect. Unexpectedly, Sun Suanhua helped her find the problem without using any pills or medicine. For a moment, Sun Qingyang was overjoyed. But Sun Suanhua immediately poured cold water on her. Sun Kiniang, this is very exhausting. It will take several months. I'm afraid it won't work. Why don't you stay here and make plans after you recover? Ah! Sun Kiniang was stunned. She was also anxious to avenge Chen Hua and to find Yan Dan for herself. Especially in front of Meng Wei. Indeed, she no longer had any hostility towards Meng Wei. But old friends meet. Women's love of beauty makes comparisons everywhere. This. Sun Suanhua laughed and said, Sun Kiniang, I can refine Hui in pills. Just focus on solving the problem. I haven't opened the furnace for a long time, so I'll help you refine a few. But what? Sun Kiniang was overjoyed when she heard it. She thought Sun Suanhua was going to make some requests. She had thought about it in her mind. As long as it wasn't going to the sky and picking the moon, she would do it. But she never thought that Sun Suanhua would shock everyone as soon as he spoke. After you get well, take Wu Ya to the Fire Dragon sect. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 532. Grandpa, why should I go to the Fire Dragon sect? Besides, what about you after I go? Meng Wei came back to his senses and immediately shook his head and said. She was only in the foundation building stage and went to the Fire Dragon section. Wasn't that asking for death? Although she is a bit indifferent now, she is still the young palace master of Yea's Huyaloo sect, and she is inferior to one person and superior to 10,000 people. At this time, if this state is gone, it will be nothing more than the fate of a handyman. If you are unlucky, you may become someone else's plaything. After all, this realm is like an ant. Sun Kiniang also looked at Sun Suanhua with some confusion. She didn't know why Sun Suanhua would make such a request. Sun Suanhua touched his beard and said, Girl, you don't have much life left. If you don't go to the Fire Dragon sect, are you really going to wait for death here as an old man like me? Meng Wei's pretty face turned red, and he said, Grandpa, can't I continue to practice in Shiwanda Mountain? Besides, I have lost the will to practice, and everything goes according to God's will. Wherever I go, I can't practice. Same, it's better to stay here. Sun Kiniang frowned. She knew that Meng Wei had downplayed his cultivation, but subconsciously, she didn't want Meng Wei to run out of life. She didn't know if it was Jian Tianming's memory that caused her to regard Meng Wei as her opponent. Meng Wei, I think it's really inappropriate for you to stay here. The world is so big, and you don't want to go and see it? Even if you don't want to go to the Fire Dragon sect, it's not a bad idea to have a try in the Peeper realm. Sun Suanhua said firmly, Girl, it's best for you to go to the Fire Dragon sect. I heard about the Fire Dragon sect when I was at the 7-star section. Their sect is built on the earth vein fire, and you have spiritual fire and practice. It's the spiritual fire symbiosis technique given by Zuyun. As long as the spiritual fire is strengthened, your longevity will increase. But. No buts, Sun Suanhua said sternly, I will teach you some simple alchemy making skills. When the time comes, follow Sun Kiniang and go there to have a look. Hearing this, Meng Wei lowered his head, not knowing what to think. Sun Suanhua also knew that she needed to be given time to accept the matter, so he turned to Sun Kiniang and said, Use the method I taught you to cut off the medicinal power on the golden elixir. Remember not to be greedy for success, otherwise it will cause the medicinal power to rebound and cause trouble. Now, I'll help you refine the Huiyan pill during this time. Sun Kiniang glanced at Meng Wei, and then said to Sun Suanhua, Thank you, Master Seventh Uncle. Niao, help me find these elixirs. There should be some in Shiwanda Mountain. Sun Suanhua gave Niao the names of several elixirs, and Niao quickly transformed into a golden rock and flew deep into the mountain. Grandpa, after Niao left, Meng Wei raised his head again and said, Even if I want to go to the Fire Dragon sect, my foundation building realm. It doesn't matter, just let a Niao accompany you. Sun Suanhua had already made up his mind. Ah! Alas, Sun Suanhua sighed and said, actually, it's not appropriate for you and a Niao to stay here. You have a good temperament and a good talent. If you focus on practicing, you can definitely solve the longevity problem. And a Niao, I have lost a lot of memories and can't find them back for a while. So you can go to the Fire Dragon sect together, and you can take care of me. In addition, with Sun Qiniang, you two will have no big problem. Once this happens, no matter what, go back to Yunzhou then. Sun Suanhua said what was in his heart. What about you? I will go back to Yunzhou when I can't. These days, I also know that the Seven-Star sect cannot reshape its past situation, but at least, the inheritance of the sect is with me, but in the land of Yunzhou, we can also find some good ideas. Isn't there the current leader of Lingjian sect here? Hearing these teasing words, Sun Qiniang's face suddenly turned red and she said, Uncle Chi, please don't make fun of me anymore. Ha ha ha. Okay, girl, you should go practice too, and so should Sun Qiniang. When you are ready, we will go out together. However, I will go back to Yunzhou, and you will go to the Fire Dragon sect. Both of them unconsciously regarded Sun Suanhua as the leader. It's not because he looks like an elder. In fact, it is all related to Zuyun. Yejia village has returned to its former tranquility. But as long as Sun Qiniang solves her troubles, they will set off. In the holy mountain of demon control, a war is about to break out. Even if the monks who can cultivate to the nascent soul stage have strong endurance, they are still a little irritable waiting. After a while of discussion, they formed a temporary alliance. Led by the three major sects of Haoshan sect, Suanji sect, and Qingyun sect, they decided to launch a general attack on the mountain guard formation of the demon control sect. These three major sects have profound foundations. According to rumors, like the Fire Dragon sect, they are all founded by seniors in the spirit world who came here in the transformation stage. The three major sects are located in three directions of Peeper Realm and have a very good reputation. In addition, they also have real materials. All kinds of mysterious magical powers are far superior to those of ordinary sects. The three nascent souls who came here are at the peak of their late stages, and they can also be said to have stepped into the stage of divine transformation. However, due to the fact that the Lin family was destroyed 100 years ago, no one can go from the mortal world to the spiritual world and achieve the great truth. Not only them, but also the leaders of the major forces, as well as some supreme elders who have closed their doors to death, are also like this. In fact, the storm is about to come to the Peeper realm. However, for the sake of a little face, they all suppress the resentment in their hearts. At noon, everyone takes action together. Hao Wujian, the great elder of Haoshan sect, said with a sharp expression. Beside him, a woman in a yellow dress looked like a banished fairy. She was the great elder of Suanji sect, Si Nian. If Yao Wuxi makes a move, the three of us will subdue him. We treated him with courtesy, but Yao Wuxi didn't even say a word. The courtesy has been reached, so there is no need to give Yao Wuxi face. In my opinion, just kill him with a sword. The last person to speak was the great elder of Qingyun sect, Qing Shan. Needless to say, his strength is naturally not to be said. He likes to wear a green dress and use a sword as a magic weapon, but he is not a sword cultivator. The other 10 or so Yuanying stage cultivators did not speak, and some of them even showed fanaticism in their eyes. For them, it is rare to have a fight. Maybe, can they break through the shackles? The unwritten rule of Peeper Realm is that Yuanying stage cultivators cannot attack at will. But several major forces have spoken, and they can have a hearty fight later. The sun moved from east to west and finally reached directly above. With King Shan's order, all the Yuanying stage rose up and floated above the demon control holy sect. Boom! 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 Everyone took out their strongest means, some tricks and magical powers that they had no chance to use at ordinary times, all of which were used to attack the mountain protection formation in all directions. With such power, how could the mountain protection formation withstand it? But after a few breaths, the formation was shattered. The entire demon control holy mountain was also shaking, and rocks fell. Xianxia fell into their sect master's hall first, laughed wildly, and then shouted, "Yao Wuxi, do you still want to be a turtle?" The voice came from afar and kept echoing in the mountains. But there was no response for a long time. The entire demon control holy sect was surprisingly quiet and a little scary. No one. Nian landed beside Xianxia, and couldn't help but wonder. "Let me see." Hao Wujian had no expression on his face. He immediately released his spiritual consciousness and took in the entire mountain in the blink of an eye. After a moment, his face changed dramatically. No one. When this was said, everyone was shocked. They had been waiting here for several days, but they didn't find that there was no one in the mountain? What's going on? Where are the people from the demon control holy sect? No, let alone people, there is not even a demon. It's not that they don't want to come out, but they have moved the whole sect a long time ago. The Yuanying looked at each other in confusion. Moving the sect is a big deal. Generally speaking, when a sect moves its sect, the first thing is to find a suitable place. For example, the richness of the spiritual energy. The second is to offer sacrifices to the ancestors. Therefore, the sect was founded by the ancestors. If it is not offered sacrifices, it is disrespectful. But moving the sect is a big deal. In order to communicate with other sects, it is necessary to notify other sects. In addition, the new address must be notified to the sects in the corresponding area to avoid misunderstandings. But all the people present were powerful forces in Peepa realm, and they didn't hear any rumors. The demon control sect is not the most powerful sect in Peepa realm. But it was able to gain a foothold because of Yao Wuxi's amazing methods and good governance. But it disappeared quietly, and no one knew anything. Just when everyone was collectively stunned, a huge momentum suddenly appeared in front of them from far away. Long light blue hair, handsome face. It was Yao Wuxi. "You have entered my demon control sect without permission, and destroyed the mountain protection formation. Are you going to be an enemy of me, Yao Wuxi?" As the voice fell, a beast roar came from nowhere, and the endless demon power pressure spread to the surroundings. Angry. Facing so many nascent soul stage, Yao Wuxi was not afraid at all. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 533. Humph, Yao Wuxi, I'm afraid you have misunderstood. We discovered that there has been a sudden change in your section. Not only is there no one in such a huge sect, not even a demon is gone. We kindly came over to help you, but you misunderstood. Wait for me. Hao Wujian has a strong ability to adapt to changes and said immediately. What? Hearing this, Yao Wuxi was shocked, and immediately released his spiritual consciousness to cover the entire sect, and his expression suddenly changed. Sure enough, there was no life within the sect. It seems like overnight, people disappeared and demons disappeared. Not even a body was left behind. Yao Wuxi, you really don't understand good people's hearts. Xianxia also said at this time, we wanted to see if there was anyone with ulterior motives who wanted to destroy the foundation of your demon control sect, but we didn't expect that you would be able to show off your power. Fellow demon deist, how could we, the three great sects, do such a destructive thing to our sect? You have also seen it, except that we destroyed the mountain protecting formation. Are there any traces of killing here? Xianxia's beautiful eyes twinkled and she spoke softly. The rest of the nascent soul stage had already joined forces during this period, and saw that Yao Wuxi's face was gloomy and he did not want to get angry. Even though he was not ashamed of the words of the three great elders, he remained completely silent. Yao Wuxi breathed deeply. The demon has thanked you all for your kindness. However, something has changed in the sect's holy land, so we will no longer invite you to the sect as guests. Please. His words were polite, but everyone could see that this was an eviction order. There are a lot of people waiting, and naturally they don't want to stay here. The demon control holy sect may not be able to stir up any trouble. And they were originally testing Yao Wuxi's strength to see the strength of the demon controlling saint sect. At this point, the goal has been achieved. Even if Yao Wuxi is stronger than several of them, so what? With the sect gone, it's useless no matter how strong he is on his own. These days, which force doesn't have a few nascent soul stages? No matter how strong Yao Wuxi is, he can only stand alone. If you want to kill him, it's just a matter of a few breaths of time. Presumably Yao Wuxi himself knew about this. Fellow Taoist demon, if you have any difficulties, please come to our Suanji section. They are all fellow Taoists from the Peepa realm, and our Suanji sect is willing to help. Before leaving, Xianxian said politely. The other major sects all said good things. Yao Wuxi let them talk, while he stood there, waiting for everyone to leave one after another, and then another nascent soul stage came running from the foot of the mountain. Sect Master, how could such a thing happen? The great elder of the demon-controlling sect was full of lamentation, as if he couldn't believe the facts before him. How could I know? Yao Wuxi took a deep breath and said, reactivate the mountain protection formation first, and I'll go take a look in the cave. Come back later. Yes, Sect Master. The great elder walked towards the main hall of the sect, where the main formation eye of the mountain guarding formation was. The dozen or so nascent souls only forcibly destroyed the shield, not the foundation of the formation. Just check it, put the spirit stone in again, and you're good to go. Yao Wuxi came to the entrance of the cave where he was retreating, and waited for the great elder to come before the two of them entered it together. This is the first time for the great elder to enter this cave. It looks like just an ordinary cave, but in fact, this cave is the retreat place for all the masters of the demon control sect. There were densely written words engraved on the cave wall. The great elder only took a glance and realized that these were all the experiences of controlling the demon. Let's see later. Yao Wuxi said in a calm tone. After. The great elder was stunned for a moment, then understood the meaning. Is the sect leader going to pass the position on to him? Sect Master, you. I have long since given up on the position of sect leader. Originally, I wanted to train Xibai, but he was nowhere to be found. He must have died in the Muling Holy Mountain long ago. Now that the sect has been destroyed, my Taoist heart chaos, I plan to go out for a tour, and leave the sect to you. Of course, if I can find the reason for the destruction of the sect, I will naturally pursue the matter. The great elder remained silent. If he had handed the sect over to him before, he would have been ecstatic. But now. Come here and take a look. When our ancestors established their clan, they placed shadow beads all over the mountain. Maybe we can find clues from them. At this time, Yao Wuxi suddenly spoke, causing the great elder to be extremely surprised. Photo beads. This is a treasure that has not been heard of in the Peepa realm for a long time. It is useless for practice, but it can record the image of the location of the beads over a period of time. But such treasures have long since disappeared in the long river of history. It is said that thousands of years ago, everyone had this kind of bead, and the entire Peepa realm was singing and dancing, and some monks had friendly exchanges. But since the method of making photo beads was lost, the world of Pipa has slowly changed. I never thought that the demon-controlling saint sect would have a shadow bead. The great elder was amazed in his heart. Fortunately, he had never done anything to disgrace the sect in so many years. Come on, follow me to the bottom of the cave. There is a main bead in the cave, and you can see the images left by the sect's more than 10 image beads. The great elder immediately understood why he was able to enter this cave. It was the sect leader who was afraid that there would not be enough time for one person to look at more than 10 beads one after another. After entering the bottom of the cave, the great elder saw more than 10 beads inlaid on the cave wall. Under Yao Wuxi's guidance, he poured spiritual power into a bead. After a while, the bead will emit an image. The image that the bead can save will last about a month, so hurry up and watch it. It's been several months since we left this time. The great elder nodded solemnly. Yao Wuxi also walked aside, found a bead and examined it. As the video slowly progressed, the two people's expressions became extremely solemn. Just because they all saw a young man. Arrogant, gloomy and horrifying. His strength was never seen in the image. But every disciple who saw him knelt down and worshipped him. But unfortunately, there is not a single nascent soul stage in the sect. The first elder and the second elder were missing. When they finished reading all the beads, their breathing became rapid. I didn't expect that the demon refining tower would be in his hands. Yao Wuxi murmured. Half a month ago, this young man used the demon refining tower to absorb all the last few people in the sect into the demon refining tower, and then left the demon control holy sect. In other words, everyone in their sect died in the hands of this boy. Sect master, this disciple has committed a heinous crime. The great elder knelt down and pressed his forehead firmly to the bottom of the cave. Originally, he was responsible for the Chuzhu demon refining tower. But he never thought that the demon refining tower would actually run into the sect, and even use the power of the tower to destroy their sect. None of your business. Yao Wuxi's eyes flashed and he said, looking at the direction this boy is leaving, it seems that he is going to Haoshan section. It doesn't matter, I will go to Haoshan sect and you stay in the sect. If this photo bead recorded Lao Zhu's ability, Yao Wuxi would definitely not dare to go there alone. Unfortunately, their photo beads can only record 1 month. Within a month, Lao Zhu was no longer needed in the entire sect. At this time, Zhu Feng was thousands of miles away, thinking that no one knew what he had done. Sect master, this disciple is ashamed. Shut up. Yao Wuxi finally broke out and said angrily, it's too late. No matter how serious your crime is, what's the use of feeling guilty? While the reputation of the demon-controlling saint sect is still there, hurry up and recruit some disciples. From today on, you will be the demon-controlling saint section. As the sect leader of the demon saint sect, I, Yao Wuxi, will voluntarily abdicate and go find that boy to avenge the sect's destruction. Yes, disciple remembers it. The great elder said quickly. Call yourself the sect leader. Yes, this sect leader remembers it. The great elder stood up, his eyes filled with perseverance. I will give you 1 month to practice here. After 1 month, you will recruit disciples. There is a shortage of people in Pipa realm now, so you can recruit disciples and select the best ones. At least the sect's holy land is far away from here, and the boy didn't notice it. Remember, those who are loyal can take him to the holy sect to find monsters. Yes, sect master. I told you, you are the sect leader now. Having said that, Yao Wuxi's body flashed, and after a few teleports, he had left the cave. After a few breaths, he was already far away from the demon control holy sect. The goal is the Haoshan sect 3,000 miles away. He decided to wait and see. No one knows the role of the demon refining tower better than him. Not only does he want to avenge the destruction of his sect, but he also wants to take possession of the demon refining tower as his own. At that time, you can seek cooperation with Haoshan sect, so that you can find a way to the spirit world in one fell swoop. Zhu Feng, on the other hand, had no idea that his whereabouts had been exposed. At this time, he was hiding in a deep mountain, entered the demon refining tower, and was heading towards the late stage of pill formation. An entire sect, 2 nascent soul stages, plus countless people and monsters, directly pushed his state to the middle stage of Dan formation. There is only one step left before he can reach the late stage of pill formation at the age of 10. Looking at Peeper Realm, it is unique. This made Yao Wuxi feel that Zhu Feng's strength must be inseparable from the demon refining tower. Humph, I want the demon refining tower. No matter what the price is. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 534. After Yao Wuxi left, the remaining nascent souls were all on their way back to their respective sects. They all need to report this important matter back to the sect. But paper cannot contain the fire, and this news quickly spread throughout the Peeper realm. The big sects and big forces were fine, but some of the smaller ones started to feel insecure. Sects with first-class strength such as the Demon Control Holy Sect will be quietly destroyed. What should they do if they meet? For a moment, there was a tense atmosphere in Peeper realm, as if a storm was about to come. Originally, the Peeper realm was somewhat unstable. As a result, the secret realm of the Heavenly Book, which will be opened in a few months, has become a highly anticipated event. Rumors circulated that a mysterious power had destroyed the sect in order to reduce the number of people in the secret realm of the Book of Heaven. But this argument is somewhat untenable. Because the Demon Control Holy Sect only has 2 places in total. There is another theory that the Demon Control Holy Sect was destroyed by the ancestral tree because of the relationship with the Wood Spirit Holy Mountain. Originally, not many people knew about the news that the Holy Mountain of Wood Spirit was trapped by the Demon Controlling Sect. But the Demon Control Holy Sect is gone, so naturally there will be some rumors. But no matter what kind of speculation, it has not been confirmed by the Demon Control Holy Sect. Rumors spread everywhere, but no one from the Demon Control Sect came forward to explain. The rumors became more and more evil. At the same time, Dan Lao returned to the Fire Dragon Sect with 100 Fire Demon pills. He did not rush to refine the special realm-breaking elixir, but directly found Zhong Jingguo. Sect Master, have you heard the news from the outside world? Dan Lao's face looked a little ugly. If there was chaos outside Pipa, it would not be of much benefit to him. No matter what the rumors are, it has nothing to do with us. Zhong Jingguo looked directly at Mr. Dan and said, we have too much to take care of ourselves. You can just stay in the sect with peace of mind. But when did it happen? When Dan Lao entered the sect, he realized something was wrong, so he followed Zhong Jingguo's words and asked. The sect was in civil strife, and the second elder defected. In addition, your ice spirit grass was also stolen by someone who sneaked into the sect. Who would have thought that when the secret realm of the Heavenly Book opens, it will be a troubled autumn? What? Hearing Zhong Jingguo's words, Elder Elixir suddenly exclaimed. Ice spirit grass is one of his backup tools, used to refine the ice sealing pill. But now it's been stolen? Who is it? Dan Lao's face suddenly darkened, but facing Zhong Jingguo, he could not get angry. It's not yet time to break up. You don't have to worry, Zhong Jingguo said. When the incident happened, I sent several elders to pursue it. And at that time, Nishang was seriously injured, so I specially gave her some fire spirit elixir to heal her injuries. Let's go back and see if she has got rid of the cold poison. Sect Master, you actually gave the fire spirit elixir. Dan Lao's face was filled with disbelief. He knew that Zhong Jingguo had something up his sleeve. But I never guessed what he was planning. Is it just for the secret realm of the Heavenly Book? But at their level, the Book of Heaven may not be useful. Because it needs to be recultivated, no one knows what the result will be. If you were a junior, it would be possible. But he gave his apprentice the fire spirit elixir. Zhong Jingguo would not give Mr. Dan time to think, but immediately asked, on the contrary, why did it take you so long to come back? A full 4 months have passed since my Ike left. Dan Lao sighed and said, I met a Jinpeng demon king in the Shiwen mountains and managed to escape. In order to avoid attracting the demon into the sect, I took a special detour. Because of this, I learned about the Peeper realm. There are rumors everywhere that the demon control sect was destroyed. Let's not worry about the demon control holy sect's affairs for now. You go back and see Lian Nishang. I have locked up Aoer and Xianxia for training. The secret realm of the Book of Heaven is only half a year old and we need to make final preparations. By then, it will be inevitable. A fight. Yes, sect master. Dan Lao took back his thoughts, and it was true that other things had nothing to do with him. As for the ice spirit grass, if he could get the heavenly book, and the heavenly book was useful to him, he might not need the frozen pill. I just don't know who is so bold as to join the Fire Dragon sect to steal the elixir. Returning to Dan Pavilion, Dan Lao found Lian Nishang. Master, are you back? Lian Nishang was a little happy, because this meant that he had prepared the materials. I'm back. I heard that you were seriously injured. How do you feel now? Dan Lao took a closer look and found that Lian Nishang was full of fire, not cold. Thanks to Huo Maoang for saving me, otherwise I might have died in the treasure house. But after saying that, Lian Nishang also looked frustrated and said, the ice spirit grass was also stolen. Ice spirit grass is always there, no wonder you don't take it to heart. If you can help me get the treasure, it will be in vain for me to train you for so many years. By the way, that Huo Maoang, but I collected it from the Foreign Affairs Hall, a returning disciple. Yes, master, it's him. Anyway, you no longer plan to use people to refine medicine, so recently, I have let him take care of things. Huo Maoang is not bad, and he does things in an orderly manner. Master, you should be nicer to him. Yes, I understand. Next, I have to go into seclusion to refine alchemy, and there is not much time left. The secret realm of the heavenly book is of great importance. The more you practice, the more you can protect yourself when the time comes. And remember, after entering the secret realm, don't trust anyone, you know. Yes, master. Lian Nishang almost blurted out that he had heard such a statement from Zuyun. But when the words came to his lips, he suddenly remembered that Zuyun was pretending to be Gao Qiao. So he swallowed them back. Why, do you have something to say to the master? No, no. Lian Nishang shook his head repeatedly. Dan Lao was in a hurry to make the elixir, so he didn't care anymore. He had some ideas about the special realm-breaking elixir, but he didn't know how many times he had to try to successfully make it. If you really count it, the time is a bit difficult. After thinking for a moment, he said, Nishang, don't disturb the master recently, unless the master comes out by himself. If the master hasn't made the special realm-breaking elixir when the secret realm of the heavenly book is opened, you should focus on self-protection in the secret realm of the heavenly book, remember. Yes, master, I will save it. Lian Nishang nodded. Okay, the master will go. Guard the elixir pavilion. Dan Lao entered the cave and couldn't help but sigh. No one knows what he is thinking. In the valley. For several months, Zuyun has digested all of Tang Liwen's experience in formation. And, comparing with the solution of formation, he has a very deep understanding of Tang Liwen's formation. Tang Liwen's formation combines the strengths of the Tang family and the Seven Stars sect, which can be said to be in perfect harmony with Zuyun. Next, it should be to break the formation. If it doesn't work, I'm afraid I can only force my way out. Zuyun lifted his clothes and exposed his belly. The black formation pattern on it has not changed at all compared to the beginning. These days, Zuyun didn't even dare to enter the immortal mansion for too long, so as not to be discovered by Xianxia, so that he would be alert and careful. But breaking the formation is not as simple as breaking the black leather formation directly. Zuyun thought of the most ideal result, which is to let the formation still exist, so that Tianzhenzi can sense it, but to make the formation completely lose its effect. At present, Zuyun's progress in learning the art of formation is limited, so he simply chooses to break it today. He first performed the breaking void spirit eye technique, staring at the wriggling formation patterns, looking at them again and again. The trend is in line with the way of heaven, and it looks more like my meridians. If it is a formation, it will be powerful. Then the source of the power of this formation should be my spiritual power. First try the operation of spiritual power to see if it is disturbed. This time, Zuyun quickly found a breakthrough. He immersed his mind and began to look inside his body. Compared with the previous few months, the embryo of the chaos seed has grown another point. It seems that it has not been affected at all. Attaching his mind from the inside to the inside of his belly to feel the black leather formation outside, Zuyun faintly felt the flow of spiritual power through the arrangement of the formation patterns. No. It should be the chaos power that is flowing. Zuyun's heart moved. His own chaos power can be transformed into any spiritual power. But before it is transformed, it is an extremely unusual power. What would happen if I transformed all the chaos power? Thinking of this, Zuyun carefully practiced the Qi refining method of the 5 Elements Chaos Sutra, and slowly transformed the chaos power in the chaos seed into fire spiritual power. Gradually, the fire spiritual power began to flow through the body, and the black array pattern, the slowly flowing spiritual power, also began to be replaced by the fire spiritual power. At this time, Zuyun found the root for the black array pattern to absorb the body's spiritual power, and a flash of inspiration flashed in his mind, which seemed to be a real breakthrough. Unexpectedly, when the fire spiritual power filled all the array patterns, a burning feeling suddenly came from his belly. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 535. This is. Zuyun looked horrified. Originally, the formation pattern was on the belly and there was no feeling at all. Even when Zuyun wasn't lifting his clothes, he would sometimes almost forget that he still had this thing on his belly. But at this time, this hot feeling seemed to be someone else's spiritual power burning him. Fortunately, the temperature was still within Zuyun's tolerance range. But how could his spiritual power harm himself? Zuyun took a deep breath and immersed himself in it again. After calming down, he thought of a possibility. It was him who might have triggered the activation of this black formation. With his mind at this point, he concentrated his attention on the surge of fire spiritual power in the formation. From one side, to the other. After he saw through the entire process of spiritual power flow, he felt enlightened. You guessed it yourself, yes. But how to solve it? He thought for a moment and then transformed all the fire spiritual power into golden spiritual power. As the golden spiritual power gradually filled his body, Zuyun found that the burning sensation slowly disappeared, and was replaced by the feeling of a knife cutting through his belly. Gold means profit. After enduring this pain, Zuyun tried 3 other spiritual powers one after another, all of which brought different feelings. But each one can bring the feeling of corresponding attributes. Wood is said to be born, earth is said to be thick, and water is said to be moist. These 3 spiritual powers did not bring negative feelings. Except for the heavy feeling of earth type, wood type, and water type are both quite comfortable. By the way, haven't I mastered the power of thunder? With a thought in Zuyun's mind, he decided to try using thunder spirit power. After concentrating his mind, the spiritual power in his body began to slowly transform into thunder spiritual power. Roads of purple light slowly surged through the formation pattern due to his intentional actions. When all the formation patterns turned purple, another strange feeling spread throughout the body. Zi la. Suddenly, there was a sound from my belly. Zuyun looked at his belly from the inside out, and was surprised to find that these formation patterns were corroded by the power of thunder. No. To be precise, these formation patterns were actually destroyed by the power of thunder. Not good. Zuyun was frightened for a while. He had no such plan. If the formation patterns were destroyed at this time, it would probably attract Tianzhen's attention. Although, he didn't know whether Tianzhen could feel his every move through this formation. But in a situation you don't know, try to avoid it if you can. The matter of the Book of Heaven is not a small matter. He had to fulfill what he promised Tang Liwen. If the heavenly book can really help people break through to the nascent soul stage in one fell swoop, I wonder if Tang Liwen can pass it on to Big Dog and Ergu. The thought only flashed through Zuyun's mind, and he immediately dispersed the thunder spirit power. At the same time, he withdrew his mind and used the void-breaking spirit eye technique to look towards his belly. It doesn't matter if you don't look at it. After taking a closer look, Zuyun couldn't help but be shocked. I saw that the originally black formation pattern had completely turned purple after undergoing various changes. In addition, there seemed to be cracks on the array pattern. Based on his understanding of the formation, half of the formation pattern was destroyed. Array patterns form a formation, and at the same time, array patterns are also an important key to the circulation of spiritual power. But at this time, the formation pattern was broken, indicating that the formation was destroyed. Now that things have come to this, Zuyun can only face reality. Oh, how could this happen? He scratched his head and looked sad. After thinking for a while, he could only accept it and said to himself, if Tianzhen finds out, I will say that I encountered Tianlei. This reason is a bit far-fetched, but it seems to be the best excuse I can find. After all, the array pattern was destroyed by the power of thunder. It's just that he doesn't understand the reason yet. But the formation is set up by heavenly formation, and the power of thunder can destroy it. Could it be said that Lei Lingli is the nemesis of the heavenly formation sect? Probably not. Zuyun also shook his head to deny this idea. Whether it was what he learned or what he learned from Tang Liwen, it was never said that the attributes of spiritual power would have an impact on formations. Of course, it has never been said that the power of thunder will have a destructive effect on the spell. Isn't it true? Why don't you try it yourself? Zuyun's eyes lit up. Generally speaking, spiritual stones are used to set up formations. At least with his current method, to wave his hands to form a formation, he needs to use the spirit stone as the formation eye, and then use his own spiritual power to form a connection between the spirit stones. This is the formation pattern. After the formation is formed, if you want to control the formation, you need your own spiritual power. Zuyun never delved into the reason, nor did he think of the mystery behind it. Now that his mind suddenly opened up, he couldn't bear it any longer. My own formation is too restrictive to use, and I don't have many spiritual stones left. How about? He walked out of the wooden house and looked towards the mouth of the valley, planning to try the Dozhuan seeing shifting formation. Zuyun acts straightforwardly and does whatever he thinks of. If he could really prove the relationship between spiritual power attributes and formations, it would open the door to a new world of formations for him. So, you have to give it a try. Walking to the pavilion, Zuyun stood on top of the main formation. With a thought, he completely grasped the Dozhuan seeing shifting formation in his hands. He concentrated his mind slightly, and then transformed all the chaotic power in his body into thunder spirit power, and then used the thunder spirit power to control the operation of the formation. Thousands of stars! Zuyun shouted in a low voice, and the sky suddenly darkened. Then, countless stars lit up again. With the stars shining, Zuyun was already in the darkness. He felt it carefully, and it seemed that there was no difference. By the way, some things can't be seen on the surface. Anyway, I'm trying it, so I might as well try it thoroughly. Zuyun simply used the breaking void spirit eye technique in the formation. It doesn't matter if you don't look at it, but when he looked at it carefully, he was immediately ecstatic. It turned out that these little starlights were all tinged with a touch of purple. It turned out to be like this, it turned out to be like this. Zuyun muttered in his mouth, and a flash of inspiration had already flashed in his mind. Following the inspiration, he locked his eyes on the star that seemed to be closest to him. The imperceptible lightning flashed on the surface of the star. But looking at the inside of the star, the thunder spirit power contained in it is extremely terrifying. For a moment, Zuyun felt that a star could kill a Jindan stage. And there are countless stars in this void. If they all exploded, would it be? Thinking of this, Zuyun was extremely excited. This is simply more terrifying than the self-destruction array. Tang Liwen has already taught all the methods of arranging the Dozhuan Xinyi formation. After several months of study, Zuyun has also mastered it. As long as there is time to prepare, the Dozhuan Xinyi formation is like a good formation that waits for the rabbit and waits for the work. Compared with the self-destruction formation, each has its own merits. Not bad, not bad. It seems that before the Xianxia secret realm is opened, this Dozhuan Xinyi formation can allow me to truly settle down here. Even if the Yuanying stage comes, I am not afraid. After Zuyun was ecstatic, he felt a little disappointed. Because he did not find the relationship between the spiritual power attribute and the formation. And there were no spirit stones in hand to set up the formation and study it. After removing the Dozhuan Xinyi formation, the void regained its brightness. Zuyun stood in the pavilion and was surprised to find that he had just used up all his spirit power. Suddenly, he fell into thinking again. The attribute of spirit power does have an effect on the formation. But it depends on the amount of spirit power in it. I used all my thunder spirit power to set up the Dozhuan Xinyi formation, and in essence, these thousands of stars are transformed from Antang's thousands of spirit stones. But the black formation that Tianzhenzi set up for me only used spirit power, and used my spirit power as energy. If his black formation is related to the 5 elements, the thunder spirit power is essentially not part of the 5 elements. Maybe this is where he missed the mark. Zuyun immediately found the difference and realized something in his heart. His ability is just like the talisman Antang said. It does not need talisman paper as a guide or cinnabar as a medium. It can be done with spiritual power. This formation is the same. It can be called a spiritual formation. As long as the spiritual power is sufficient, why do we need spiritual stones? As usual, those ordinary restrictions are not even formations. The cultivators can set them up at will. Then when you reach a certain level, waving your hands to form a spiritual formation, what kind of ability is it? I thought wrongly, this spiritual formation is nothing more than that. After figuring out the key, Zuyun actually sat down cross-legged and used the spiritual talisman method taught by Tang Liwen to substitute into the spiritual formation. However, what he was worried about really happened, but he had forgotten it. Tianzhen Sect Master Hall. Tianzhenzi suddenly opened his eyes and murmured, "It seems that I have to go to the Fire Dragon section. Did that kid break my soul-sucking tracking formation intentionally or unintentionally?" You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzhuan Xianxia. Chapter 536. Master, what's wrong? Beside Tianzhenzi, a graceful woman opened her eyes and quickly climbed onto his shoulders with a pair of slender hands. Looking closely, she actually had a foxy face that could bring disaster to the country and the people. I planted this pawn in the fire dragon sect, and thought I could see if there was anything I could use. Now it seems that it is indeed good. Being able to break the tracking array, your talent in arrays is beyond my expectation. Tianzhenzu reached out and wrapped his arms around the woman's waist, and pinched her deliberately. Ah! The woman cried out in pain, "Master, please have mercy on me. After all, I just succeeded in transforming." Ha ha ha. Tianzhenzu laughed and said, "Go get some spirit wine. This master needs to carefully consider how to deal with the secret realm of the heavenly book." "Yes, master, I'll go now." The woman stood up, and when she turned her face away, a hint of hatred flashed across her face. And under her skirt, she was dragging a snow-white foxtail. Fire Dragon Sect. Zuyun accepted the fact that the formation was broken. Without knowing what Tianzhenzu was thinking, he could only improve his strength as quickly as possible. From this formation, it can be seen that Tianzhenzu's formation skills are extremely strong. Although he has the Pakuling Jingju, he is definitely unusable when there are people around. It can be said that half of the destruction of the Lin family was caused by the Pakuling Jingju. The other half is the heavenly talisman fragments. Perhaps, what is needed to pass from the mortal world to the spiritual world is the Pakuling Jingju. If I want to try the latest insights, I need a lot of spirit stones. But now, I am penniless, so I still have to ask for help from Lian Nishang. Zuyun thought for a moment and decided to leave the valley and go to Dan Pavilion. But in order to avoid trouble, he also needs to avoid Huo Maoang. After the incident in the Fire Dragon sect, the number of disciples walking in the sect has decreased a lot. And even fewer people recognize him. It is a bit too much to say that everyone is in danger now. But not caring about things that do not concern you is the true face of the Fire Dragon sect now. More Fire Dragon sect disciples were involved in the production of elixirs and magic tools. This is one of the jobs of ordinary disciples in the Internal Affairs Hall. On the one hand, it can improve the skills of the disciples, and on the other hand, it can create value for the sect. Zuyun came all the way to the alchemy pavilion, stood outside the courtyard and said loudly, "Is Fairy Lian here?" As soon as the voice fell, Huo Maoang walked out of the courtyard with a stern face. He looked up and down, and felt that Zuyun's face was unfamiliar, but his figure looked a little familiar. "Who are you, and what do you want to see Fairy Lian for?" Zuyun was speechless in his heart, but he could only pretend on his face and said, "This senior brother, I have something urgent to do with Fairy Lian, please inform her." "Fairy Lian is in seclusion and practicing. If there is no urgent matter, please do not disturb her. You explain your purpose first, and I will inform her." "Fairy Lian, not everyone can see her." Zuyun was helpless, looking at Huo Maoang's smug look. He wanted to slap him so that he would know who saved his 2 lives. But for the sake of his own safety, he had to hold back his anger. Zuyun said in a good tone, "Brother, please inform me. This is my reward for hard work." After that, he took out a few fire dragon pills from his storage bag and handed them over. "Hey, which disciple are you from? You still have fire dragon pills?" Huo Maoang was not polite. Although he had a say in the Dan Pavilion now, he had no right to take the pills in the Dan Pavilion at will. He took it and weighed it in his hand. Huo Maoang said something and went to find Lian Nishang. "Wait here, don't run around." Zuyun curled his lips and watched Huo Maoang enter the courtyard and walk to the right. Lian Nishang's residence was there. "This kid looks unfamiliar. I don't know if he sneaked in, but this fire dragon pill is of excellent quality. Let Fairy Lian be careful later." Huo Maoang came to Lian Nishang's house and knocked on the door a few times. What's the matter?" Inside the house, came the crisp voice of Lian Nishang. "Fairy Lian, it's me. Someone said they're looking for you, let me inform you. Who's going to see me? No one. Lian Nishang has been practicing hard these days. She kept in mind what Zhu Yun said, that no one can be completely trusted. The only one who can be trusted is herself, so she wants to improve her strength as much as possible. In addition, Dan Lao also said that special realm-breaking pills may not be successfully refined. This gave her full motivation to practice. In the Fire Dragon sect, it can be said that there is no one who has a good relationship with her. Huo Maoang looked down at the Fire Dragon pill in his hand, smiled bitterly, and thought that he should say it again. Fairy Lian, let's meet him, it seems that he has something important to do. Lian Nishang in the house stood up impatiently. But thinking that it was Huo Maoang who said it, she thought about giving him some face, after all, he saved her life. Then take me there. She said so, but Lian Nishang only thought that she would send him away after meeting him once. But as soon as she walked out of the courtyard, her bitter face suddenly smiled. Why are you here? After saying that, she looked at Huo Maoang with some blame, thinking if you had told me earlier that he was here, would I still be upset? I have something to ask you, thanks to the senior brother for reporting it. Zhu Yun deliberately emphasized the word senior brother. Only then did Lian Nishang realize that Huo Maoang didn't recognize Zhu Yun's appearance. She quickly put away her smile and said, okay, let's talk here. Zhu Yun breathed a sigh of relief and said, Fairy Lian, please come this way. The two of them walked in tandem, and after leaving Huo Maoang's sight, they walked toward the valley in tacit agreement. As soon as he entered the valley, Lian Nishang realized something was wrong. Hey, your big formation. Zhu Yundao, I have an epiphany on the formation path, so I want to ask you for a favor. Lian Nishang felt envious in his heart. He had only been here for a long time and he was able to understand the formation. It seemed that the second master was really optimistic about him. Otherwise, how could the Dozhuan scene shift formation have changed? However, Lian Nishang didn't have any jealousy in her heart. On top of her array talent, she was indeed extremely ordinary. What Tang Liwen asked her to learn was only superficial. In fact, she didn't know that in the early days, Tang Liwen really didn't have any ideas. She just felt that Lian Nishang's temper was more suitable for her. No bigotry, just straightforward. Lian Nishang asked, what are you busy with? Well, Zhu Yun rubbed his hands and said with a smile, I want to borrow some spiritual stones from you. Lian Nishang opened his eyes and asked, what do you want the spirit stone for? I want to try something, but I'm short on money. Zhu Yun's cheeks turned red. Ever since he was a child, he had never borrowed money from anyone, and he had rarely borrowed spiritual stones. If it weren't for the restrictions at this moment, he really wouldn't be able to speak. I don't usually use many spirit stones. How can I have them? Lian Nishang pouted and said. Zhu Yun was surprised, don't you need spiritual stones to practice? Lian Nishang shook his head and said, if I want to refine qi, I only need to go to the earth veins. After all, the pure fire spiritual power there is much better than the mixed spiritual power in the spiritual stone. Zhu Yun suddenly realized that he was right. Lian Nishang was a single fire spirit root. It was indeed better to practice with spirit stones than in the earth veins. No wonder she almost never left the fire dragon sect. Do you need it urgently? Seeing Zhu Yun's expression, Lian Nishang took the initiative to ask. That's right, otherwise I don't know if my newly learned formation method can be used in future formations. This. Lian Nishang thought for a moment and said, do you still have that kind of talisman? Change the world and change the talisman. Zhu Yun's eyes lit up and he immediately guessed what Lian Nishang meant. Yes, yes, that's the talisman that can change your appearance. Lian Nishang clapped her hands, then came over and whispered, can you change to look like Huo Maoang? Then I can take you out of the mountain and go to the nearby market to sell some elixirs. One fire dragon elixir and 10,000 souls. Have you thought about it enough? Zuyun was overjoyed. He still had nearly 100 normal fire dragon pills in his body, plus some fire dragon pills with some minor problems. Isn't this a millionaire? Okay, then when do we set off? Zuyun immediately became impatient. No rush, Lian Nishang said, since you are pretending to be Huo Maoang, you will definitely need his cooperation. Let me think about it. Lian Nishang quickly thought of a countermeasure. The sky was just right at this time. 2 hours later, Lian Nishang walked out of the mountain gate with Zuyun, who had changed into Huo Maoang's appearance. The destination is Fangxi, 50 miles away at the foot of Hualong Mountain. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 537. Huo Maoang was tricked by Lian Nishang into guarding the valley. Zuyun didn't need him to do anything, just stay inside and don't run around. Huo Maoang's identity was registered at the mountain gate. If he was still in the Dan Pavilion, it would not be a good thing to be discovered. Moreover, Huo Maoang also handed over his identity plate. As they walked down the mountain road, the nervous expressions in Lian Nishang and Zuyun's hearts disappeared. Thanks to the fact that the Fire Dragon sect has been busy lately, no great power has noticed them at all. The two of them had discussed it before leaving. If anyone asked, Lian Nishang would take action. I believe that ordinary people will not stop him, let alone guess that Zuyun's Huo Maoang is fake. After walking all the way to the bottom of the mountain, the two of them walked towards the east. According to Lian Nishang, that place is the largest market nearby. At the foot of Hualong Mountain, the crowd was withering, so the two of them quickened their pace, hoping to get back before dark. But being careful, they did not choose to fly, but ran wildly on the ground. Soon, they passed through a wasteland, and a large market appeared in front of them. Zuyun said in surprise, "Fairy Lian, there is such a small market here, why not get closer to the Fire Dragon sect?" In his understanding, the market should be closer to these sects to facilitate transactions. When he was still in Lingjian sect, there was a small town at the foot of the mountain. Not only the monks from the Lingjian sect came down to trade, but also the casual cultivators from all over the place exchanged what they had. Unless it is very large in the local area, like Zhao Kamang's Nanfangfang city at that time, and is well known, monks will naturally look for it there. Even he traveled hundreds of miles for a pill furnace. Lian Nishang explained, although there are also transactions for the elixirs of the Fire Dragon sect, most of them are directly circulated with some other sects in exchange for spiritual stones. There are fixed trading days every year. So naturally this market will not be under the Fire Dragon Mountain. Zuyun understood the meaning. There was really no benefit in being under the Fire Dragon Mountain. The Fire Dragon sect was already famous for its alchemy and weapon making, so there was no need to trade through these individual customers. It's not of the same magnitude at all. Even if it is a small sect, the transaction volume is probably extremely huge. It's no wonder that after all the disciples in the Internal Affairs Hall were killed or injured, they couldn't wait to promote the disciples from the Foreign Affairs Hall to refine elixirs and make weapons. Suddenly, Zuyun figured out the key to the survival of the Fire Dragon sect, and couldn't help but wonder in his heart, if this earth line was destroyed, would the Fire Dragon sect be unable to survive? But soon, he threw this idea out of his mind. The idea is terrifying. That Fire Dragon alone is not something ordinary nascent soul stage people can deal with. On the surface, the Fire Dragon sect is just an ordinary sect. But in the long run, the Fire Dragon sect seems to be able to affect the existence of the entire Peeper realm. While thinking, the two of them had already walked into the market. Zuyun quickly recovered his thoughts. They came here this time to sell some Fire Dragon pills. Lian Nishang does have some elixirs on his body, but they are basically for his own use, and it would be too conspicuous to get them on the market. Zuyun never thought about using the elixir for refining Nishang in exchange for spiritual stones. Anyway, he has enough fire dragon pills. Moreover, fire dragon pill is still circulating on the market. Entering Defang City, Zuyun looked towards both sides of the street. He has a lot of elixirs. Ordinary people should not be able to take them. They should find a store that sells elixirs. But after a few glances, his body froze. What's wrong? Lian Nishang saw Zuyun reacting strangely, so she leaned into his ear and whispered in his ear. Secretly selling fire dragon pills and placing them in the fire dragon sect is also a serious crime. Even though Zuyun's pills could be said to have been rewarded by Elder Dan. But there are rules in the section. Disciples of the fire dragon sect are not allowed to sell the elixirs within the sect. This is also the reason why there are not many fire dragon pills on the market. Most of the fire dragon pills in circulation were obtained by other sects from the fire dragon sect, and then distributed to their disciples through layer by level distribution, and then circulated out. Therefore, Lian Nishang had to be treated with caution. On the way here, Zuyun said that he planned to produce about 50 fire dragon pills. In order to maintain confidentiality, he can accept lower prices appropriately. But his bottom line is 400,000 spirit stones. But at this time, Zuyun had no intention of selling the fire dragon pill. Instead, he was looking at the door of a shop in a daze, wondering what he was thinking. Lian Nishang heard there was no movement around her and asked, "What's wrong with you?" Following his gaze, I couldn't help but look weird and said, "What are you looking at the pet pavilion? Is it possible that you want to buy a fox demon in exchange for so many spirit stones?" Zuyun was shocked and came to his senses, quickly shook his head and said, No, it's just. Although he didn't have much involvement with the pet pavilion at this time, he had promised Qiu Qi after all that if he saw a fox demon, he would definitely rescue it. Zuyun is not a rigid person. In fact, it is him. Tao Xian is like this. Just what? The Beast Pet Pavilion has a great background and a very mysterious background. It is also a big customer of our Fire Dragon section. From what I see, it is better to have less contact with them. With that said, she pulled up Zuyun's sleeves and walked towards Fangxi. Zuyun's heart tightened and he said, "What's the origin of the Beast Pet Pavilion?" He couldn't help but think of Wu Chideo. It's not that his realm is high, but that his realm is extremely weird. Of course, this was caused by Wu Chideo's martial arts, and Zuyun didn't know it. I don't know, it's just that it's very mysterious. Every year, they purchase a large amount of transformation pills from the sect through their master. As far as I know, they seem to be forcibly given to the fox demon, so that the fox demon can transform into a human. I don't know the reason. Lian Nishang really didn't know much. She had lived in the sect for a long time, so of course no one would tell her about such promiscuous matters. Zuyun sighed and said, "You know it right, but I didn't know that the transformation pill was actually provided by the Fire Dragon sect. The sect must survive. With so many disciples, refining elixirs and making weapons requires a large amount of materials." Lian Nishang didn't think much about it, but took it for granted. Zuyun also fell silent. Thinking back to the beginning, the Lingjian sect could only provide training resources for its talented disciples. This was because they wanted to train their disciples in exchange for training with Wanjian Mountain. Comparing it to the Fire Dragon sect, there is simply one heaven and one underground. But the reason is as Tang Zhuyang said. It's nothing more than a relationship of interest. Now that the disciples of the Foreign Affairs Hall are being dragged to refine elixirs, this is enough to explain everything. He felt helpless. Couldn't a cultivator of immortality be free from the word profit? The world is bustling, everyone is here for profit. What's wrong with you? Lian Nishang seemed to sense that Zuyun was a little unhappy, so he reminded him, there must be a store for collecting elixirs inside. It's not good for you to be in this state. I understand, don't worry. Zuyun just forced out a smile and said something, but suddenly his pupils shrank. Far away in the street, I saw a peak monk in the late stage of pill formation, walking towards me. What's wrong with you? Lian Nishang was a little unhappy. Zuyun was so dumbfounded that she couldn't help but wonder whether she had made the right decision in bringing him to Fangxi. Unexpectedly, Zuyun replied directly via voice transmission, saying, "Stop talking." Lian Nishang shut up quickly. Although she didn't know why, she still heard the urgency in Zuyun's tone. At the same time, I also felt that Zuyun was slightly nervous. Fortunately, Zuyun still maintained his rationality and pulled her into a shop on the side of the road. As Zuyun let out a long breath, Lian Nishang asked, "What happened? Did you meet an enemy?" Zuyun relaxed and whispered, "That's right, I have met an enemy. His strength is very strong." After saying that, he turned his head and focused his eyes on the man's back. He was extremely lucky that he pretended to be Huo Maoang, so he was not recognized. "He can't recognize you, what are you worried about?" Lian Nishang glanced at him sideways, feeling that Zuyun was making a fuss out of a molehill. But unknown to him, the monk turned around and walked into the pet pavilion. There was a hint of surprise on his face. Strange, didn't Huo Maoang die in the treasure house? And the female cultivator was dressed in red, and she looked very familiar. Zuyun thought Wu Chideo didn't recognize him. But he didn't know that Wu Chideo knew Huo Maoang. Moreover, the scene where he suddenly entered the store with Lian Nishang made him wonder whether the other party had seen him. Was it intentional or a coincidence? I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzhuan Xianxia. Chapter 538. Mr. Wu, what's wrong? At this time, a steward of the Beast Pet Pavilion came forward and greeted him with a smile, his face full of humility. But in this humility, it was difficult to hide a trace of contempt. In his opinion, the Beast Pet Pavilion branch that Wu Chideo was in charge of was disturbed by someone, and he couldn't find the instigator, which was simply a big joke. "Nothing, is the pavilion master here?" Wu Chideo's mind was on Zuyun, and he was too lazy to bother with the steward. In other words, what he was planning and what he wanted was not what the steward could imagine. When he succeeded in the 9th transformation and broke through the nascent soul stage, the cultivators in the entire Peeper realm would not be taken seriously by him, let alone this Beast Pet Pavilion. Yes, of course. The pavilion master has not left. After that, he led Wu Chideo to the stairs. "Okay, I know it myself, you can go and do your own thing." Wu Chideo sent the steward away and went upstairs himself. No matter where the pet pavilion is, the arrangement and the shape and decoration are exactly the same. Wu Chideo is familiar with it. Besides, it is not the first time for him to come here. "Humph, why are you so arrogant? Aren't you just like a dog that has lost its home?" The steward is also at the peak of the late Jindan stage. He looks down on Wu Chideo, but he can only curse in his heart because of his inferior status. After Wu Chideo went upstairs, he soon walked to the pavilion owner's room. As for the purpose, it is unknown. Zuyun sighed. They entered a shop selling magic tools. They had no intention of buying magic tools, but in order to avoid Wu Chideo, not long after entering the shop, a waiter came forward and promoted the magic tools in the store. "Fellow deist, the first few magic weapons are not pleasing to your eyes. Why don't you go up to the second floor? There are many high-quality magic weapons produced by the Fire Dragon sect. I see that both of you have the aura of fire spirit power. Why don't you go up and take a look?" Zuyun only wanted to sell the Fire Dragon pill, but Lian Nishang was interested. She had her own magic weapon. Although it was not made by Elder Dan himself, She obtained it from the sect through her own sect contribution. After hearing what the waiter said, she wanted to compare it carefully. What is the difference between the magic weapons sold by the Fire Dragon sect to the outside and those used by the sect itself? Zuyun had no choice but to follow Lian Nishang up to the second floor. Under the guidance of the waiter, they walked to a corner of the second floor hall. There were several magic weapons standing in front of an exquisite weapon rack. Just by looking at it, and still at a distance, Zuyun felt that the method of refining this magic weapon was indeed not bad. Lian Nishang took the initiative to walk forward. The waiter thought she wanted to buy, so he left Zuyun aside and followed her to introduce it. Zuyun was also happy to be quiet, and casually looked at the other magic weapons in the market. With his weapon refining skills, it was still a bit difficult to see the refining methods of these magic weapons. Looking at the skills of several cultivations, weapon refining is one of his shortcomings. Spiritual medicine planting and wine brewing are rarely used in daily life, and they are not directly helpful for cultivation, so Zuyun will relatively ignore these two. He has a solid foundation in alchemy and talisman drawing. The longevity secrets used in body skills and arrays can be said to have encountered bottlenecks. If he had not mastered the array taught by Tang Liwen and realized the role of spiritual power attributes in arrays, he would probably have to stay for a long time. So, he planned to take this opportunity to observe other magic weapon making methods. This is a rare opportunity. Thinking of this, Zuyun saw that there was no one else on the second floor, so he simply used the Pakuling Jingju to look at these magic weapons, trying to find out other people's refining techniques. The most iconic feature of every weapon refiner is the technique. It's just that it's a bit difficult to see from this. But Zuyun also had an unexpected gain, which made him ecstatic. He never thought that the Pakuling Jingju could actually see the materials used to make some magic weapons. The main material of this sword is black rock iron. It's powerful, but the toughness is much worse. The compass uses 36 kinds of metal materials. Does it correspond to the 36 directions? Huh, strange, it uses two completely different materials, silver and burning gold. How can it be balanced? Zuyun looked at them one by one and gained a lot. Whether it is some practical magic weapons or some flashy magic weapons, for him, he can understand something from them. But until Zuyun set his eyes on the last magic weapon. It was a sword. It looked no different from an ordinary sword. But Zuyun could see that the hilt seemed to emit a faint light. He was very surprised. Although he also used a sword, he had no interest in ordinary swords since he used the Chaos Sword. Or, the Chaos Sword was his best magic weapon. No other. Even if he was not strong enough sometimes, he needed to use other means to make up for it. But as far as magic weapons were concerned, the Chaos Sword was the most practical one. It was unstoppable and had a sword spirit. It came when summoned and went away when waved. No need to hide, nor put it in a ring or storage bag. It was much more convenient than any magic weapon. But why did this one attract me so much? Zuyun subconsciously took a step forward and was about to get closer to observe, but suddenly there was a sound of footsteps behind him. He looked back and saw that it was Lian Nishang and the waiter who had returned. In Lian Nishang's hand, there was a magic weapon that looked like a token. "Do you like this magic weapon?" Zuyun asked curiously. Lian Nishang's face flashed with embarrassment, and she said, "I like this magic weapon, but, you don't have any spiritual stones." Zuyun spoke, and when he saw her lower her head, he was speechless. He knew that Lian Nishang didn't have any spiritual stones, otherwise, the two of them wouldn't have come here secretly to sell medicine. He didn't know what Lian Nishang was thinking at this time, and she actually bought a magic weapon. It was produced by the Fire Dragon sect. Zuyun was in a dilemma, so he had to say to the waiter, "I don't have many spirit stones, but I have some pills to sell. Can we trade later?" When the waiter heard that there were no spirit stones, He couldn't help but smile and said in a deep voice, Daiyu, you are not here to make trouble. Our spiritual equipment pavilion is not a place where you can joke around. Misunderstanding, misunderstanding. Zuyun was also afraid that the matter would get out of hand and attract Wu Chideo's attention, so he said, we wanted to exchange spirit stones and then look at the magic weapon, but it was just a coincidence. Since he likes it, why don't you help keep it for a while, and I will sell the pills and come back. Humph. The waiter said coldly, I can't make the decision on this matter. This second floor is an important place in our entire spiritual equipment pavilion. If you have any questions, tell our shopkeeper. After that, the waiter took out a sound transmission jade talisman, and after silently reciting a few words, a middle-aged man with a big belly walked up the stairs. The waiter stepped forward and whispered what had just happened to the shopkeeper. The shopkeeper's eyes flashed with sharpness, constantly scanning back and forth between the two people. I heard from the waiter that you two came upstairs because you didn't like the magic weapon downstairs. If you knew that you didn't have enough spirit stones in your pocket, why didn't you say it earlier? His words were full of hostility, and he obviously felt that the two people wasted a lot of their time. There were many people coming and going in this market. It is possible that when the waiter received them, some monks who really wanted to buy magic weapons would miss it because no one was there to receive them. Shopkeeper, this is really a misunderstanding. We are new here and don't know the rules. I just told the waiter that we can sell some spirit stones and then come back to trade. I wonder what the shopkeeper thinks. Pills. Do you know how much this magic weapon is worth? How many pills do you have to sell to exchange for this magic weapon? Hearing this, Zuyun looked at Lian Nishang. Lian Nishang also knew that she had caused trouble for Zuyun, and she carefully pointed out 2 fingers. 2,000 spirit stones. Zuyun was slightly relieved. He could see that Lian Nishang's magic weapon was only good-looking, but not very practical. Lian Nishang herself said that it just suited her taste. 2,000. Who knew that the shopkeeper said coldly, Daiyu, you look down on our spiritual weapon pavilion too much. This fire saint order is 20,000 spirit stones. Zuyun thought it was very expensive. 20,000 spirit stones were just the price of 2 fire dragon pills. He raised his eyebrows and said, only 20,000. The shopkeeper and the waiter were stunned. 20,000 spirit stones are undoubtedly a huge sum of money for some casual cultivators. If all of them are used for cultivation, it is enough for a whole year of cultivation. But the boy in front of him actually used the word talent. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 539. Before the two of them came to their senses, Lian Nishang also felt a little aggrieved and said, it was only because he said it was only 20,000 that I thought of buying it. These words made the shopkeeper and waiter a little confused about Zuyun's background. Is it possible that their understanding of the amount of spiritual stones is different from ours? Zuyun smiled and said to Lian Nishang, I don't blame you, it's just that we weren't ready. Do you really like this fire holy order? Well, I like it. Let me lend you 20,000 yuan, okay. As she spoke, Lian Nishang tightened her hands, fearing that the waiter would take the fire holy order away from her the next moment Zuyun refused. Zuyun smiled and said, I'll give it to you, just use it as your toll for bringing me here. He said this, but he was secretly thinking in his heart, are all women so irrational when buying things? 20,000 spirit stones, he has been practicing for decades, and he has never had so many in his body. But fortunately, as long as the fire dragon pill is released from his body, he doesn't need to worry about the condition of the spirit stone for a long time. Didn't you live a hard life because you didn't have spiritual stones? It's not easy to be a nouveau riche for once, so let's do it for once. You too, I wonder if I can go to the store that collects elixirs and get some elixirs. Can you help me keep this magic weapon? Please do it for your convenience. Zuyun said seriously. Each party has its own rules. At this time, he also felt that he and Lian Nishang were a little inappropriate. After looking at something for a long time, I ended up with no money. It would be unpleasant for anyone else. I wonder what kind of elixir you want to sell. If it is a precious and rare elixir, our store can also charge it directly at the market price. The shopkeeper was also a little confused about the identities of these two people. I thought they were just two casual cultivators. Listening to the words, it seems as if he has never seen the world, but he can't lie. Could it be that the descendants of some large sect came out to experience it? After this idea came up, the shopkeeper felt a little certain in his heart. After all, Zuyun Zhengu is not that old, and Lian Nishang is not much older than Zuyun. At such an age, his strength is above the middle stage of forming the core. Even if he is not a descendant of a large number of people, he must be some of the family's children. It's not that I'm afraid of offending. But since the business can be done, there is no reason to refuse. Thinking of this, the shopkeeper couldn't help but become a lot more polite before saying such a thing. Real. Zuyun suddenly felt happy. It would be great if the elixir could be sold in a shop that sells magic weapons. Moreover, you can leave this store as early as possible and stay away from Wuqi Road to ensure your own safety. Of course it's true, the shopkeeper said quickly, if you Taoist friends are worried, our store can also be a middleman and gather several shopkeepers who collect pills here to hold an internal auction. It's a good relationship. Zuyun was not surprised that the shopkeeper's attitude had changed so much, and of course he would not think about the reason. For him, this is advantageous. After thinking for a moment, he said, forget it, that's too troublesome. If your store can accept it, I'll be happy to ask for it, and it will save you some trouble. Then please, Taoist friend, take one out and have a look first. If this shopkeeper misjudges me, can I ask someone to come over and take a look? It's easy to say. I believe the shopkeeper will not be wrong. Zuyun smiled slightly and took out a fire dragon pill. The pure aura of fire lingered around the round pill. The entire second floor suddenly became quiet. After a long while, the shopkeeper covered his mouth with a fat hand and shouted in a low voice, "Fire dragon pill." The voice can be lowered, but the excitement within it cannot be concealed. If the shopkeeper recognizes it, that would be great. Zuyun was overjoyed and said, "Shopkeeper, please give me a price. How much does one cost?" The shopkeeper absorbed quickly, his chest rising and falling, and said, "The original market price of the fire dragon pill was 10,000 pieces. But recently, the Peeper realm has been in trouble, and it has been sold to 10,000 pieces. It is very possible that this price is still it will go up. I don't know how many pills you will release. What if?" Zuyun didn't know why. With a thought in his mind, he took out one from another porcelain bottle, handed it over and said, "The shopkeeper is easy to talk to, and we are also easy to talk to. These two are regarded as the fire holy order. How about the spirit stone? I wish I could have it." The shopkeeper beamed with joy, took it like a treasure, carefully took out an empty porcelain bottle, put the fire dragon pill in, and stuffed it into his arms. He seemed a little worried, patted his belly, and then said, "Fellow Taoist is really a generous person. My surname is Jin. Because I have 2 gold teeth, most people in the city call me Big Jin Teeth." As he spoke, he grinned widely and pointed inside his mouth. Zuyun looked and saw 2 golden streaks flashing across his face. Only. From what he could see, these 2 gold teeth were not as simple as ordinary gold teeth, but a magic weapon. Because Zuyun did not remove the art of breaking the void spirit eyes. As long as he doesn't come in the nascent soul stage, he has no fear of being discovered. It seems that this shopkeeper is also a bit interesting. Zuyun was slightly distracted, but decided to continue selling the fire dragon pill to him. Seeing his previous attitude towards the two fire dragon pills, it can be seen that the other party really needs this pill. And he also said that Peeper Realm has been in chaos recently, and he doesn't know why. I wonder how many fire dragon pills you want, shopkeeper Jin? I'm a little short on money, but I can still produce some. Hearing that Zuyun wanted to sell, De Jinya's eyes narrowed to a slit. He wiped the corners of his mouth and said, "Fellow Taoist, my spiritual weapon pavilion has strong financial resources, I can eat as much as you sell." The waiter was beside him, completely dumbfounded. Just now he was scolding the two people, thinking that they were causing trouble, so he summoned the shopkeeper. "But I never thought that this was a big customer. Don't say anything else. Just the change of hands of these two fire pill dragons was more than what they made from selling magic weapons in one day. For 2,000 spiritual stones, they only had a profit of 3 to 500 for one magic weapon. This is still a high-end magic weapon. Like low-end ones, basically not very profitable. Real." Zuyun rolled his eyes and took out 5 more genuine fire dragon pills. "Fellow Taoist, are you selling all 5? De Jinya couldn't control his saliva. "Of course, you pay with one hand and deliver the goods with the other hand." Zuyun took a step forward with a smile, and actually took the 5 fire dragon pills into the palm of the big gold tooth first. At this time, he turned around and took out 5 more fire dragon pills from another porcelain bottle. The last 5 pills were the ones that Elixir originally gave him. If Elder Dan knew that the fire dragon pill that was originally given to Zuyun to help him become a medicine furnace was sold by Zuyun, I wonder what he would think. This. Big Jinya couldn't control himself. 10 of them, you can make 10,000 if you resell them. If you are more courageous and take advantage of the price of fire dragon pill to go up, you may be able to earn 30,000 to 50,000 yuan. Who is this? The attack is too terrifying. Suddenly, Big Gold Tooth's attitude also changed. "Fellow Taoist, how much do you plan to sell? Just take it out at once." "Jin, I can't bear this surprise." As he spoke, De Jinya pointed to one side and motioned to Zuyun to sit down and chat. Zuyun smiled, turned to Lian Nishang and said, "You have finally bought this magic weapon. You go and wait for me outside Fangxi, and I will have a good talk with the shopkeeper. It's not that he has anything shady, but he is worried that if he takes too much, if the shopkeeper becomes greedy, he can easily deal with it alone." He was not afraid of the shopkeeper, but he was afraid that if this happened, a fight would inevitably occur. Wu Chideo's attention will definitely be attracted by then. If he comes, he might run away. Carrying Lian Nishang is completely a burden. Oh well. Lian Nishang wanted to say that I would be taken care of if I stayed here, but when faced with Zuyun's firm eyes, she couldn't help but flinch. She has always felt that Zuyun was easy to talk to, but this was the first time she saw him behave like this. "Go and send this fairy off." The shopkeeper also understood and took this opportunity to send the waiter away. After both of them left, Zuyun did not hesitate, reached out and took out 9 spiritual stones and sprinkled them on the second floor. The spirit stone emits a burst of brilliance, and the 9 turns and 9 suns formation takes shape. De Jinya was shocked and exclaimed, "I didn't expect that my fellow Taoist is also an formation master. I wonder which senior disciple of the Tianzhen sect my fellow Taoist is." Zuyun was happy that the shopkeeper didn't know his identity, so he laughed and said, "Shopkeeper Jin, there is no need to say more, knowing too much is not good for you." Yes, De Jinya nodded repeatedly. No matter how strong the power behind him was, it was much weaker for sects such as the Tianzhen sect, so he quickly led Zuyun towards that side. But Zuyun only took 2 steps, and suddenly there was a shock in his chest. He was stunned for a moment, then his expression changed drastically, and his right hand subconsciously touched his chest. The Wu glazed mirror is moving. This is. Are there any remaining pieces nearby? I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 540. Zuyun had never thought that he might encounter the fragments of Daoliuli mirror in Peeper Realm. Or rather, the search for the fragments was something he had always ignored. Because it was not under his control. But at this moment, he felt the trace of the fragments. Could it be on Xianxia? No, it was impossible. Zuyun immediately ruled out this idea. Because he had not felt it when he was so close to Xianxia before. Compared with before, his position had moved. Daiyu, what's wrong? Just as Zuyun's mind flashed with inspiration and he turned his eyes to the long sword that he had felt unusual before, Xianxia called out softly, pulling Zuyun's attention back. Zuyun was shocked and thought that he had lost his mind. Obviously, Xianxia also noticed this scene, but he didn't know why Zuyun was surprised. He thought that he had taken a fancy to the magic weapon, so he smiled and said, Daiyu, do you like this sword? He just stretched out his hand, and the sword flew out of thin air and fell into Xianxia's hands. At the same time, Zuyun felt the mirror on his chest shaking more and more violently. He was afraid that Xianxia would find something wrong, so he said without hesitation, Manager Jin, this sword is to my liking. I don't know how much it costs, I want it. After that, he reached out to grab it. Xianxia was also shocked. This sword was placed on an ordinary weapon rack. Although it was several levels higher than the magic weapon downstairs, it was just an ordinary top-grade magic sword. How could it be favored by Zuyun? In his eyes, Zuyun was already a direct descendant of a wealthy and powerful force. Could it be that he really liked it? Xianxia was a little unconvinced. But fortunately, he was just a businessman. Why not earn spirit stones? Immediately, he smiled and said, this sword is cheap, 10,000 spirit stones will do. No problem, Zuyun gave a total of 12 fire dragon pills, minus the fire saint order, it can be exchanged for 90,000 spirit stones, but as the sword entered Zuyun's hand, not only did the vibration in his chest become more intense, but the sword also trembled uncontrollably in his hand. Zuyun subconsciously wanted to put it in the storage bag, but he was afraid that the storage bag could not withstand the movement of the sword. With this in mind, Zuyun decided to find a safe place immediately, take out the fragments in the sword and fuse them. After saying that, Zuyun threw down a sentence, Manager Jin, I'll go first, you help me prepare the spirit stones. He didn't have time to argue with Xianxia slowly, and as soon as he finished speaking, he had already used the thunder escape technique to quickly flash away. Unexpectedly, just as his figure disappeared, the 9 transformations and 9 yang formation that Zuyun had just set up for sound insulation was instantly broken. The auras of 2 peak late Jindan stage quickly enveloped Xianxia. Hey, where are the people? Xianxia immediately looked up. He knew the 2 people who came here, so he narrowed his eyes and said, what magic weapon did you 2 come to Jin's place for? Xianxia, the 2 of us came here to find that young man's Jindan. Where did you hide him? Xianxia was stunned, looked down at the fire dragon pill still on the table, and put it away. Then he said, Master Qin, our spiritual equipment pavilion and your beast pet pavilion have nothing to do with each other. That young man is a distinguished guest of our spiritual equipment pavilion. Even if you want to cause trouble, you should look for him outside. He didn't hesitate at all. Although he didn't know what Zuyun had done. But he was generous. If he got to know him, it might be good for him in the future. So he said a few words to help Zuyun at this time. Unexpectedly, Wu Chideo glared, and a more powerful aura directly enveloped Xianxia. The voice was even colder, "If you don't tell me, you will die." Beside him, the shopkeeper Qin frowned with some dissatisfaction. Just now in the Beast Pet Pavilion here, Wu Chidao promised him benefits before agreeing to bring him here to find someone. But he never said that he would use force to coerce others. This market is a spontaneous gathering, and of course there are unwritten rules. That is, you can't fight. No matter right or wrong, the party that strikes first will be besieged by others. Wu Chidao originally agreed. But after coming here, he couldn't see Zuyun, and for a moment, he was a little anxious. Of course, he didn't recognize Zuyun, but thought that Huo Qinjue must be pretending, and he wanted to find out the reason. Although, he had removed Jianyi's appearance. But no matter what, if he didn't figure this out, he would feel very uncomfortable, so he came here. "Humph, Pavilion Master Qin, what do you mean by this friend you brought?" Big Gold Teeth was not afraid at all. As he spoke, two golden lights appeared in his mouth, directly breaking Wu Chidao's pressure. "Although I, Big Gold Teeth, am not a good person, we will protect the guests of the Spiritual Equipment Pavilion to the end. If you have any tricks, just use them." As soon as the voice fell, Wu Chidao smiled contemptuously, his eyes shone with a strange look, and the golden light disappeared immediately wherever his eyes looked. Then, Big Gold Teeth suddenly showed a look of fear. Crack! The two golden teeth in his mouth were actually shattered. That's right, Wu Chidao is several times stronger than the peak of the late Jindan period. It can be called the half-infant state. Pavilion Master Wu, you. Even Pavilion Master Qin next to him was stunned by the strength shown by Wu Chidao. Speak or not? Wu Chidao ignored him at all, but shouted sternly. He just left. I don't know what kind of escape technique he used to leave. Xianxia said very spinelessly. Snored. Wu Chidao's face darkened, and then he clapped his hand. There was a loud noise, and several of the magic weapons in the array on the second floor were smashed to pieces. More will be damaged. Xianxia dared to be angry but did not dare to say anything. He just watched Wu Chidao directly break through the roof, hang in the air and look around. He immediately discovered something, and ignored Pavilion Master Qin who was traveling with him, and turned around. Chase over there. Zuyun also heard the sudden loud noise behind him. He subconsciously looked back and saw Wu Chidao. His pupils immediately shrank, secretly saying something bad. Why did Wu Chidao come after him at this critical moment? Judging from his aggressive look, it was obvious that he was coming with bad intentions. I'm obviously in the form of fire. Why is Wu Chidao chasing me? Something's wrong. Although Zuyun was a little flustered, he was not too nervous. I was thinking for a while, but I couldn't find the reason. But he was going to go far away, so he simply... Zuyun was already moving forward at full speed, but now he was running his spiritual power crazily and using the thunder escape technique. Good boy. Wu Chidao snorted coldly and tried his best. With his 9th cultivation, his strength is naturally higher than that of Zuyun. The spiritual power is also far more mellow than that of Zuyun. Unfortunately, in terms of speed, due to the limitations of his realm, he was still in the elixir formation stage and could not catch up with Zuyun for a while. If you want to chase me, then I'll let you chase me. As long as you get to a place where no one is around, see if I can kill you. Zuyun also had a murderous intent in his eyes. Last time, there were many people and mixed views, and they had no idea of Wu Chidao's strength. Later I found out that Wu Qi was still far behind the nascent soul stage. In this case, there are more ways to kill him. Racing along, the two of them went one behind the other. Wu Chidao felt that Zuyun had nothing to worry about. After all, he did not dare to stop after being chased by him, which was obviously due to lack of strength. And he believes that with his current strength, he is the first person under nascent soul. He had no idea that Zuyun already regarded him as someone who must die. As he flew westward like this, Zuyun's spiritual power also decreased rapidly. Wu Chidao even used his magical power to see the situation Zuyun was facing at this time. But he didn't expect that Zuyun didn't need to take action himself if he wanted to deal with him. When your spiritual power is used up, I'll see how you can still use this mysterious escape technique. Wu Chidao sneered, and felt that this escape technique looked more and more like he had seen it somewhere before. After thinking about it carefully, it became clear for a while. Okay, it turns out it's you. Kill Zhen Wengxiu and take away Zhen Wengxiu's talisman of changing the world. At that time, you used this escape technique to escape from me. I didn't expect that now I will run into you. See if you can where to run. Suddenly, Wu Chidao also flashed murderous intent. If it weren't for Zuyun, he wouldn't have been injured at that time, and he would have been able to heal for a long time. The pet pavilion in Chufang City was also destroyed, causing him to have to bear the pressure from the main pavilion. Well now, the instigator has appeared. Not only can you take revenge, but you can also obtain the mysterious black sword as a gift. At that time, he will be considered guilty and meritorious, and he can use the cover of the Beast Pet Pavilion to successfully turn 9. Just when Wu Chidao began to long for a smooth path in his future cultivation, Zuyun in front of him suddenly stopped. Wu Chidao felt happy in his heart. As far as his eyes could see, Zuyun's spiritual power was only 20% left. Even from a distance, he was heading towards Zuyun with majestic spiritual power. Unexpectedly, a golden light suddenly appeared out of thin air, carrying unrivaled demonic energy, directly breaking through his pressure.